The market's been doing some interesting things lately, hasn't it?
Yeah, bit jumpy.
All the talk about tariffs and, well, everything else. It definitely makes you think twice about investment decisions sometimes. Feels a bit like a roller coaster.
It really can. Lots of uncertainty floating around. And that's actually why we're digging into this piece from the Motley Fool today.
Ah, okay.
They've flagged a couple of stocks they think are interesting buys, kind of regardless of all these short-term swings.
Right, companies may be a bit more insulated. So the mission for us today is to really get under the hood, understand why the Motley Fool is pointing to Vertex Pharmaceuticals and Veeva Systems.
Exactly. Why these two?
Right now, yeah, why do they see them as resilient? We want to give listeners a clearer perspective. And the Motley Fool, they've been around analyzing the market for a long time.
They definitely have a track record, so their picks are worth a closer look.
Okay, let's start with the first one then. Vertex Pharmaceuticals. What's the initial take from the article?
Well, they frame Vertex as a leading drug maker. But the key thing is their focus.
Which is?
They zero in on developing treatments where there's a big unmet medical need. So think areas where current options are, frankly, not great or maybe don't exist at all.
Okay, so going after the tough problems, that sounds like a specific strategy.
It is. It means they're often targeting areas with maybe less competition. The article really highlights their success in cystic fibrosis, CF.
Right, I saw that. That seemed like a huge part of their story.
Absolutely huge. They're basically the only company with drugs that treat the underlying cause of CF, the genetic defect.
Not just the symptom.
Exactly. And the article notes others have tried and failed in CF. So Vertex really dominates that space.
Wow. Okay, so that explains their growth. The article mentions significant revenue and earnings jumps over the past decade.
Yeah, that dominance directly fueled it. It's a testament to their innovation, really.
Makes sense. But it's not just CF, right? The strategy seems broader.
Definitely. The article talks about recent approvals and their pipeline, and it all seems to follow that same playbook. High unmet need.
Like Casgevy, approved last year.
Yeah, that perfect example. Treats two pretty nasty rare blood disorders. Again, very limited options for patients before Casgevy came along.
So sticking to that core idea, what about Journavx? That one sounded interesting too. Non-opioid painkiller.
Yeah, that one's fascinating. It's the first oral non-opioid pain inhibitor approved by the FDA.
First oral one. So while there are other pain drugs...
Right, lots of pain management options exist, but so many are opioid-based with all the issues that come with that. So Journavx could be a really significant alternative for a lot of people. Plus, the article hints at potential label expansions down the road, more uses.
Okay, so potential beyond its initial approval and the pipeline overall.
Well, management set a goal. 5 new products launched between 2023 and 2028.
Ambition.
It is, but they're making progress. They count Aliftrek, which is a next-gen CF therapy, as one. So they're, more than halfway there already, if you include Casgevy and Journavx?
Seems like it. Any other key ones mentioned in late stage?
Yeah, a couple stood out. There's inexaplin, that's for a specific type of kidney disease, APOL1 mediated.
Okay.
And povetacicept, which is being looked at for IgA nephropathy or Berger's disease, both serious kidney conditions needing better treatments.
So still very much focused on those significant needs. How does this all tie back to navigating, the choppy market waters?
That's a good question. The argument in the article is, look, drug development is risky. Not everything works out.
Sure, standard pharma risk.
Right. But Vertex has this strong track record, this clear, successful strategy focusing on unmet needs. That suggests resilience.
Meaning they're likely to keep succeeding.
The potential is there, yeah.
Yeah.
For continued innovation, continued success, and potentially solid long-term returns, even if the broader market is doing its roller coaster thing, the demand for their kind of drugs is pretty constant.
Got it. So it's about the underlying business strength, less about market timing. Okay, let's switch to the second company. Veeva Systems. Different world here, right? Tech.
Yep, cloud computing. But like Vertex, Veeva has a very specific focus.
Which is?
They provide cloud solutions, but only for life science companies. Pharmaceuticals, biotech, medical device makers. That's their entire world.
Ah, a niche player then. Not like the giant cloud providers everyone knows.
Exactly. And that niche focus is key. Life sciences is... well, it's complicated.
How so? What makes it different for cloud needs?
Think about it. Highly regulated industry, right? Plus, drug development takes years, huge upfront costs, complex clinical trials, tons of data.
Okay. Yeah, lots of specific requirements.
Precisely. Generic cloud solutions often just don't cut it. They need systems built for compliance, for managing trial data securely, for handling regulatory submissions efficiently.
And that's what Veeva provides. Tailored solutions.
That's their whole value proposition. The article mentions things like their tools for clinical trial management, ensuring regulatory compliance, platforms for storing all that crucial study data. They deeply understand the industry's pain points.
And it sounds like the industry buys it. The article says many big pharma companies are clients.
Yeah, some of the biggest names use Veeva. That obviously speaks volumes about their credibility.
And translates to good financials, I assume.
Generally excellent financial results, according to the piece. And there's this idea of stickiness.
Stickiness, meaning?
Well, once a big pharma company integrates Veeva's systems deeply into their R&D and regulatory processes.
It's hard to switch.
Exactly. The cost, the disruption, it'd be massive. That gives Veeva a pretty strong moat.
Okay, that makes sense. So how does this specialized focus help Veeva weather market volatility? Is it similar to Vertex?
In a way, yes. The core demand is pretty stable. The life sciences industry itself is expected to keep growing, regardless of wider economic ups and downs.
People always need medicines, new treatments.
Right. So as long as these companies are developing and selling products, they need the kind of specialized cloud infrastructure Veeva provides. That demand isn't likely to disappear in a recession.
So a stable customer base in a growing sector.
And the article points out Veeva's potential runway for growth. They estimate their total addressable market in the market. The total potential spending is around $20 billion.
$20 billion. And what's their revenue now?
Trailing 12 months, about $2.7 billion.
Wow. Okay, so there's a huge gap. Lots of room to grow.
A lot of room. The article throws out a scenario like, even if they capture, say, 30% of that market in the next 5 years, reaching $6 billion in revenue.
That would mean significant growth.
Huge growth potential in revenue and earnings, which, could translate into really good stock returns for investors who are patient.
So it's about being essential plumbing for a vital and growing industry.
Pretty much. They're a critical partner with specialized tools.
Okay, so let's try and distill this. We've looked at Vertex and Veeva through the lens of this Motley Fool article. What are the main takeaways for listeners?
I think the big one is that both companies are in sectors healthcare, specialized tech for healthcare that have strong long-term growth drivers and are generally less susceptible to the wild swings of the broader economy.
Right. There's a baseline demand there. For Vertex, it's that focus on high unmet medical needs and their proven innovation, especially in something as tough as CF.
That focus gives them an edge, maybe some pricing power too.
And for Veeva, it's that deep specialization, being the go-to cloud provider for the complex life sciences world.
Yeah, that niche focus combined with the high switching costs makes them seem pretty well entrenched.
So the underlying message from the article seems to be maybe instead of trying to perfectly time the market, which is, let's be honest, really hard.
If not impossible.
Right. Maybe focus on companies with strong fundamentals, clear growth paths, operating in these more resilient industries.
Exactly. It's a shift towards focusing on business quality and long-term potential rather than short-term market noise. Understanding the why behind the business.
Yeah, this deep dive definitely highlighted the rationale the Motley Fool presented for liking Vertex and Veeva, even with market uncertainty. We've unpacked their strengths, their market positions, all based on the article's perspective.
And the core insight, I think, is the potential value in businesses that tackle fundamental needs, innovate effectively, and operate in sectors less tied to economic cycles.
It definitely leaves you thinking, what aspects of these companies that drive for innovation at Vertex or Veeva's niche dominance resonate most? For our listeners, what further digging might you do? Does their approach fit with your own investment view? Definitely food for thought.